Hello, this is Benny King. My real name's Brendan King. I go by Benny, at least with my friends, and you are my friends if you're watching this, or family. I'm trying to remember to make as many videos as I can, but I'm busy with a lot of other things. And I was working for Washington State University as a plumber. So I love Washington State. Go Cougs! They're doing great this year. Football anyway, and I was working in the labs and stuff, and we had a lot of people from China as lab techs and teachers and students, and apparently one of them had either been to China or maybe they had visited with a relative. Look at that hair of mine. I'm going bald. Anyway, I was exposed to the original SARS, COVID-2 germ virus, whatever, and I did get COVID, and I didn't know what it was. I have quite a few problems. I have anxiety and ADHD and dyslexia and dyscalculia, which is numerical dyslexia. And I am definitely a different dude, a little strange, but I also I'm a MENSA member. I grew up not knowing I was smart or anything. I didn't think I was, but I lived in a home where I pretty much had to teach myself everything. I'm 64 years old right now. I'll be 65 in less than a year. And these are the schools I was going to in Hilliard, Spokane, Washington, Regal Grade School, and then Shaw Junior High, Rogers High School. They didn't have any kind of special teaching, and I didn't know that I had needed any special teaching other than I hated school, at least grade school, and I flunked kindergarten, and I had a really hard time reading. I had to teach myself how to read and how to add, and numbers will not stay in my head, and I didn't find any of this out until I started working for WSU, and I hadn't had a doctor in years. And so once I had my own insurance, then I eventually got a doctor, and I was pretty stressed out and sick at the time because I have my emotions are. I'm an emotional person, and I'm happy with that. I like the fact that I feel things. I think everybody feels things, but we just grow up to protect ourselves and put up walls so that the hurts and emotions and stuff don't get to us. Well, people with ADHD, they can't do that. We can't do that. Everything gets in, good and bad, and that's okay. I think it's supposed to, and I'm glad I wasn't able to build up and shield myself and hide inside of walls from emotions and things. But it did make life a little hard. I was a very short little kid. Small, got beat up all the time, but all I remember about my growing up was happy. I had good friends. I loved being alive. I loved getting out playing and everything, but I really struggled with education, and didn't know why. Nobody knew why. They just put me in special classes and told me I wasn't smart, and I believed them for a long time. And then once I got into junior high school, I loved junior high school because they let you use a calculator, and I taught myself how to read, and I taught myself how to get through math and everything, as long as I had a calculator. And so then they started branching out into learning things that I enjoyed, and social studies and science and music and photography and art, all kinds of wonderful things. And then I loved school, and I was so busy. I remember I had every class and every music class and every sport, and came early, stay late, and had friends. And it's amazing what junior high kids are capable of. I never just watched TV or stayed home or something like that. I was busy all the time. And I started playing the trumpet when I was in grade school, and even more so in junior high and high school. That was probably my number one serious thing. Was I kind of narrowed it down to music and playing the trumpet specifically. And I'd taken private lessons, and I was in every band at the Rogers High School I was going to. And in my first year, when I was 15 years old, a senior, Keith Hill, a good friend of mine, he talked me into joining a drum and bugle corps, Renaissance drum and bugle corps, and started hanging around with me. And it was pretty cool. I had these older friends that liked me and helped me hang around with them. And I really enjoyed that. And I spent most of my time music oriented, and I would have done well in science and stuff, but I was just kind of focused on that. I spent most of my spare time that first year in high school and that summer hanging out with all my older friends from drum and bugle corps, and we traveled all around the West Coast and competitions, and we did really well, and I learned a lot, and it was great. And my junior year, I did it again in the summer and everything. But these older friends of mine, they all went on to college and everything and left me behind. But I still enjoy. I had friends in the bugle corps that I enjoyed. But I'd also had lifelong friends from Hilliard that I was still friends with also, and started hanging around them more. Jeff Fagan and Mike Gibson, great guys. They were very smart too. And we were always hanging out together, the Three Musketeers. And they were very smart. They got good grades, everything. I still struggled with a few things, but as long as I avoided numbers, I was good, or had a calculator. I enjoyed science. I enjoyed a lot of different things, but most of my time, was spent with music. And I became one of the better trumpet players in Spokane. And so, at Rogers, me and some of my friends from drum corps, we wrote halftime shows and the drills and the music and everything else. And I remember we did a Chuck Mangione show once, and the guy doing the announcing was really nice. It was at a big Joe Albi football stadium, pretty full. It was a big deal. And on the microphone it says, presenting the Rogers High School Marching Band, show written by Benny King, and music written by Benny King, and that helps. I didn't do all that, but then solos by Benny King, and it did feature me in the show, and I had a lot of good solos, and it went over great, and got a lot of compliments on it, and I thought I was doing pretty good. I liked that, but my friends Jeff and Mike and I, we got a little bit of trouble that junior year. We were nothing big, but we were just starting to be kids, young men, and get in trouble in different things, and nothing too serious, but I got kicked out of band. And so Meade let me go out there. So I transferred over to Meade, the brand new Meade High School. And I was able, because I was pretty good, I was able to get in the Meade High School band for my senior year. And that summer between junior and senior year, well, Mike and Jeff and I, we got into even more trouble. Never hurt anybody, but we stole a few things. And we're just sowing some seeds and stuff. It wasn't good. But I wanted to hang out with these guys. I love these guys. And I'm sorry I hurt people, or stole a few things, but I'm not sorry that I hung out with those guys. They were my family, and I enjoyed my time with them. And this was the 70s, there was drugs involved and drinking and things. But I have nothing but fond memories of that also. But in my senior year, they were still going to Rogers, and they were smart and everything, but there wasn't a lot of opportunities for students at Rogers High School, and I had left them behind and gone to Meade, and I was doing well there, and there was a lot of good musicians in that band. I was not the best one at that band, but I was part of them, and we won the marching band championship for Washington State. We were in the Kingdome, and we went down to Idaho for the Lionel Hampton, music festival and competition, and I think we won the high school version of that, and I that first half a year at Meade High School, I did really well, and I was the band director, super nice guy, I love him. He arranged for me to probably get a scholarship at Eastern. It wasn't university at that time; it was Eastern Washington College, but they had a good music program, and I was going to go do that and everything, but I tell you what, I wasn't good at music theory. I was a music scholarship. It'd be if I wanted to be a band teacher or something. I wasn't good enough to be a professional musician, but my course was set to go to Eastern and take music classes and write music or be a band teacher or something, which would have been great. But I knew I wasn't qualified. I knew that I still had all the way through school, I was hiding the fact that I still had trouble reading, couldn't do math, and music and music theory, and that's math, and I couldn't understand it. And if I practiced and worked hard, I could play music good. I was a good trumpet player, but sight reading and improvising and things like that, I didn't understand. I knew I couldn't, and I knew I was out of my league. And I grew up in a poor part of town in Hilliard, and I was hanging out with these kids who went to the ritzy nice school up north in Meade, and they all let me be part of their family and go to their houses and everything. But it was a whole different world. These people had money. Their parents had money. They lived in nice neighborhoods and nice houses. And I lived in the attic of an old crummy house in Hilliard, and I had old parents that really didn't have anything to do with me. And, I felt like I'm out of my league, and my two good friends, Mike and Jeff, they were saying, well, you're not going to hang around with us pretty quick. We're halfway through our senior year. They didn't have scholarships to anywhere, and I'm hanging out with these Meade people and everything. And, we were breaking into schools, junior high schools and stuff, and taking TV sets and selling them, which was terrible. It was bad. We knew it was bad, and we really just wanted to turn ourselves in. We didn't want to just walk into the police station, but we were trying to get caught, and we wanted to fess up before we turned 18, and that was another thing. As far as I knew eventually this was going to catch up to me. And my math skills and my stealing and everything else, I wasn't going to end up at Eastern. I was going to end up in prison probably. And so we decided to break into the brand new school at Meade High School during the Christmas break. And brand new. I knew they had alarm systems and everything. We were just going to go inside and wait for the police to show up and turn ourselves in. Well, apparently the alarms didn't go off, and we sat there forever. And eventually, we took a few items, not much. I think, we had maybe $5,000 and stuff. Nothing from students. It was just some speakers and different things. And we didn't sell them. We didn't get rid of them. We stowed them away, and we just waited for the police to come after us. And they eventually did. And we said, hey, we're admitted to everything. We said, we just want to come clean, and we'll give the stuff back. And we had this equipment stored at a friend's house, and he got scared and sold it or did something. So we couldn't even turn that equipment back in. And they thought we were lying about that, and we weren't. We never made a dime. We never sold any of that stuff. It got stolen from us. Somebody, probably our friend, probably sold it and made some money on it, but not much, So then we were 17 years old, coming up on 18, and we just threw ourselves at the mercy of the court and said, hey, we need help. We're sorry. And we couldn't turn the stuff in. It was gone. And but it really, seriously, it was only just a couple $1,000s worth of stuff. But Meade High School, which I'm not trying to badmouth them at all. I don't know what the deal was, but they said we'd stolen $200,000 worth of stuff, which made us felons. And they were gonna charge us as felons, and we were going to prison. And that wasn't good, but hey, we were ready to do whatever. The court was merciful on us. I appreciate it, Washington State Court. And they said, hey, the deductible on this $200,000 worked out to be, I don't know, something like $6,000. Anyway, they said, if you guys can come up with the deductible between the three of you, and it was something like $3,000 a piece, then we will not charge you as adults. So my parents had no money. Jeff's parents, nobody had money. We had to go out and borrow money. So my mom borrowed $3,000 from her sister, which I really appreciated, and I paid it back. And we were able to stay in juvenile system. And I spent almost a year locked up, and turned 18 when I was locked up. And I was over on the coast at Maple Lane School, had a big fence around it, bars on the windows, but it was much better than prison. I was very thankful for the mercy I received from Washington State, and I wasn't tried as an adult. They don't have a record, and I was more than happy to do that time. And I got all kinds of letters from friends and stuff supporting me and stuff, and I felt terrible about what happened and everything. But I was not a Christian at the time. I believed in God, But I knew I'd done wrong. But when I got out, I dedicated my life to never doing anything wrong. I've heard enough people. I'm going to try to do nothing but good for the rest of my life. And I did find the Lord Jesus as my personal Savior, and I've kept that up. I'm not perfect, but I've tried to do everything I could to be thankful for the mercy that was shown me. And I went to Bible college for a few years. Never got a degree, but I did graduate, and I got ordained through a church online, so that I have some kind of credentials. But I've studied the Bible front and back. I've done all kinds of things that I could do to make me useful as a Christian. I don't just go. I did spend a lot of time in church, probably too much time going to church when I really should be out helping people. But I spent 25 years going into Spokane juvenile detention, and they were happy to have me. And it was through the Union Gospel Mission, and I was a chaplain, volunteer chaplain. And I worked with kids down there, and I told them my story about getting in trouble and then becoming a Christian. And I told them how I got married to my beautiful wife, Barbara, who I'm still married to for 42 years. And that I had 2 wonderful daughters and eventually grandkids. And I had my own plumbing business, and I was very successful. And I gave those kids a lot of hope, And that was the most important thing I've ever done in my life, other than being a dad and a husband. And I did a lot of good there. And I did as much of that as I could. I took a couple breaks in there when my kids were teenagers and needed me at home a little bit, but I still went in for a while. But a total over time of about 25 years, probably saw and talked to and shared my story with something like 10,000 kids. And I think I made a difference. I was real glad to do that. I also volunteered with youth at church and different things. And I was a chaplain at the local Riverview group home in Spokane. And, that was all good stuff. I'm sure glad I did it. I probably sacrificed a little bit of time with my family, but I still managed to spend a good amount of time, probably more than they wanted to. I did not want my daughters to end up like me. And so I was probably, I know I was too strict with both of them, because I just didn't want them to turn out like I did, at least before I got saved. So I was affected by death a lot, as my ADHD and anxiety. I didn't know I had these things, but at that point. But, when my family and close friends started dying, including Mike and Jeff, I had a really hard time. And the emotion, I didn't know why. So I'd always been a real positive, optimistic person. And but when my friends and family started dying, it just really hit me. And I went through a lot of stuff. I'd say I had a nervous breakdown. And I was still volunteering at juvenile detention, but I was having a hard time running my business and different things, and it took me a long time to get over their deaths, and I had about 5 or 6 other very close friends that died about that same time, and my dad and some other relatives, and it took me, I just forced myself to get through it, and just kept going to work and doing what I could, and I eventually did, kind of get back to, I was a different person, a better person by going through all that stuff, but I finally got to a place where I could do my work, and I was enjoying life, and I was enjoying my family, and but then 2 of my brothers were pretty sick, and I knew they weren't going to be alive much longer. And my father-in-law, Barbara's dad, Bob Plyler, was good for. He set me and Barb up, and we'd worked together at Kaiser, and we were really close. I loved him, and he treated me very well. And he took me on a cruise with him once, and we were super close. And he had Alzheimer's. And his wife had died. My mother-in-law died just shortly before that, and so he had Alzheimer's, and he was going downhill. And a relative of my wife's was supposed to be taking care of him, and she ended up taking all of his money out of his bank account, like $300,000, and he was broke, and he couldn't pay his house payments. He couldn't do anything, and so I had to go in and take care of him and get the legal stuff done, and it was very hard. That was hard on me. And about that same time I'm dealing with that, then my brother Tim, his son who had muscular dystrophy, he passed away. That was hard on me, harder on Tim. That was hard. And then I lost two of my brothers, and then a niece, and then eventually my mom. And I knew this was going to be hard on me. It was. At least I was better prepared for it. But I had decided ahead of time that I wasn't going to go through it alone. I couldn't go through all that alone. I was going to tell people. I was going to be honest about my feelings, and try to get help me get through this. And I did. And my family, my wife, kids, friends, everybody, other plumbers, they talked me into going to work for the state. They said this will be much less stressful, and you won't have to worry about running the business and all that stuff. And I listened to them. It was good help. And looking back now, it was good advice. It didn't turn out so good at the beginning. My first state job was District 81 as a plumber, working in the schools, and I liked that a lot. But I was promised 6-month probation, and I was promised that when my 6 months was up, it would be a permanent position. And it ended up not being a permanent position. They had union things, and they had to bring back a guy that had been on sick leave and stuff. And so they felt really bad, but they said, well, hey, you did a great job. When we go to hire another person, which could be 2 years, 3 years, you are top of the list. We have to come to you first. It's like, oh, great. Now I've sold my business. I don't have a state job anymore. So my wife had worked for WSU she's been there over 20 years now, but at that time she'd been there for 15 years on the Spokane campus. And the guy that ran facilities was a good friend of mine, John Shad, and he would love me to come to work there, but he couldn't pay me what they paid union plumbers down in Pullman. But he could probably get me some kind of work just to keep my insurance going and my benefits until I could get another state job. And I appreciated that. That was wonderful. And I started off on grounds at minimum wage, like $10 an hour. And I did that for a month just to keep my benefits going. And then John Chad was able to create a job in the facilities department as a plumber. But it wasn't a union plumber. I think they started me at $20 an hour. And I said, well, I can't live on that, so John let me work overtime and weekends and different things to make up for it. And my plan was still to go back to District 81. But it was very stressful on the WSU campus. I loved what I was doing. I loved working for the state of Washington. I loved all the stuff I was fixing and learning at WSU. But there was a lot of people that were unhappy that John made a job for me, nepotism, and I didn't really earn the job or something. So I made it my goal to just work as hard as I could, and so that nothing could come back on my friend John. And who knows, maybe after I'd been there a while and they saw all the licensing I had and talent I had, maybe they would go ahead and make me pay me what the plumbers are supposed to get paid. I've been a journeyman commercial plumber for many years. I was president of the local IAPMO code board. I had my gas license, HVAC. I had my backflow license. I should have been getting paid $50 an hour, and I started off at 20. I think by the time I left after 3 years, I was up to $23 an hour. But I learned a lot about myself working there because I was working on all sorts of technical, scientific, medical equipment. It's a medical campus, and I was the only guy on campus that could fix this stuff. I didn't know I could fix it. I learned that I could fix anything, and I also learned once I got a doctor, and my nervous system and my immune system was just shot from dealing with death and all the things I had to deal with, and I was sick all the time, and I was overweight. I was about 220, and I went to the doctor and did my blood test, and he goes, "Yeah, you're going to have a stroke. You're way overweight. You're high cholesterol, high blood pressure, all these things." And he put me on all sorts of different medications that made me sick. I don't handle medications very well. And I said, hey, I can get myself in shape. I said, if I can lose a bunch of weight and get healthy, I want to get off these medications. And so it only took me maybe 2 months. I got into a exercise nutritional program at WSU for free. It was great. Appreciate that. And I lost a bunch of weight. I went from 220 down to 165. And I was running and working out every day, and I was eating right, no sugars and things. and I got myself healthy, and all my blood level, everything, cholesterol, everything was good shape. My doctor couldn't hardly believe it, but he goes, okay, you don't need any of these medications anymore. You followed my instructions, you're healthy. But what about your ADHD? He said. And I said, I said, first of all, I don't believe there's such thing as ADHD, and I sure don't have it, And he said, well, you trusted me before. Would you at least go see at the Kaiser Permanente in town? They had their own mental health side of things. And they said, would you at least just go talk to these guys and get tested? I said, okay, I'll do that. But I said, I don't have that kind of stuff. I've never had it. And so I did the whole ADHD testing, dyslexia, all that kind of stuff. And the guys that did it on me were excellent. They knew what they were doing. I've researched it quite a bit since then. This was clear back in probably 2017, 2018. And they did everything. They did all the right tests. They knew what they were doing. And when I was all done testing, several months, they gave me the results on a graph, a bell curve graph. And they said, okay, we don't even test people that if we don't think they already had it. They did some pre-testing and said, yeah, you definitely have ADHD. And so then they did the test, and they said, so when they're all done, they've got all these statistics from years and years across the nation of people who've had this standardized ADHD dyslexia testing. And they said that people that are on this graph that you're on now never would have been able to take it if we didn't already know that they had it. And so these are ADHD people on this graph. And they said most people who have ADHD fall somewhere in the, starts at the low end, goes in the middle, and goes back down again. And so most people are in this middle humpy part here, And then there's some people way over on the left side that they barely got it at all. They have it, but just barely. The majority of people are up on this big bell. And then as you go down the other way, you get the people who test very high that they have ADHD and dyslexia. And they see this little arrow skinny deer on the end, like just top 5% of the people who've taken this test. That's you, way up there. You have got max ADHD, dyslexia, dyscalculia, anxiety, all this stuff. And I said, well, I could hardly believe them, But they had the results, and it was like they knew me. They knew everything about me. They said, what was your childhood like? And did you ever get arrested? If we went to your garage right now, would you be embarrassed to have us go in and look around? It's like, how do you know me? All this stuff. Well, I fit all the buttons and charts and everything. I definitely am high ADHD. I definitely have bad dyslexia, and I felt sorry for my family, who had to deal with this stuff, but it relieved me at times. Like, well, I wasn't dumb, I had these problems, and it wasn't my fault, and that made me feel a lot better. And I'm going to work on this stuff, and my doctor started me on Zoloft or something for anxiety, and it was like night and day. I had never been given any kind of a drug for antidepressant, anxiety, or anything. And it was like just a light came on. It was like, oh no, I know who I am now. And I felt sorry for my wife Barb and kids and everybody. They'd had put up with me for all this time. And eventually I was started on, ADHD drugs, Adderall, different things. And it was great. I became a different person, at least the way I was thinking. But I've been born this way. And I wasn't sure that any of it was a positive. I saw most of it as a negative. And they said, well, you're also very smart. I said, from this testing, we know that you have a very high IQ, and we're not licensed to be IQ testers, but they set me up to go take the MENSA test. And I said, what's MENSA? I didn't know what MENSA was. And you have to qualify to even take their test. There's official MENSA of the United States and MENSA of England and international MENSA. But in order to take their specific test, you have to pre-test for it to see if you qualify to waste their time. So you take the test, and then you got to pay to take the test. Well, I qualified to take the test, and I did take it, and I passed it. So I scored in the top 2% of anybody who's ever taken the official MENSA test. It's not an IQ. They don't give you an IQ score because they don't believe in IQ scores. There's over 300 easier IQ test that people can take. And as long as they score in the top 2%, they can get into MENSA. So the majority of MENSA members never took the official MENSA test. They took an easier one to get in. I didn't know any of this. I would have taken one of those easier ones for sure. But I didn't know what I was doing, and I ended up taking the real MENSA test, and I didn't think I was going to get it. I just went with my gut. It was a lot of math. I knew I couldn't do the math. I just guessed, and I wasn't expecting to pass, but I did. I got a letter in the mail saying, congratulations, you scored the top 2% of everyone that's ever taken the general MENSA test. And I didn't know what to do with that. That was like, I'm smart. I didn't think I was smart. Nobody else thinks I'm smart. But this was all while I was going to WSU. Gave me a confidence boost. And then on top of that, working for the state, working for the university on a medical campus. And I'd never worked on any of this kind of equipment. They would ask me to come look at something, and I said, yeah, I think I can fix that. And I would. I could fix anything, It was great. I was on a roll. But I stepped on some people's toes because I still have ADHD and anxiety and all this kind of stuff. And they didn't like the fact that I was coming in and fixing everything. I mean, they didn't have to call in other plumbers. They didn't have to call in anybody, all this technical equipment. They just said, let's give Benny a try first before we bring this specialist in from New York and fly him over and put him in a hotel and pay him $1,000 a day to fix this problem. Let's see if Benny could fix it. And guess what? I could. It was great. But I told everybody at WSU, on the campus, at Pullman, that I have these diagnosed problems. I'm legally diagnosed with ADA, dyslexia, dyscalculia, anxiety, and all these things are covered under the protection of the ADA, American with Disability Act. I thought they'd like that. They're supposed to hire a certain percentage of us, and I said, hey, I'm so thankful you guys hired me, and I'm having a great time figuring this stuff out, and you can use me for saying your quota or whatever. And they thought I was a plant or something. Nobody trusted me, not even my good friend. And they wanted me to get out of there. There was a couple of supervisors that were just making life miserable on me. And they eventually lied about me and said I had assaulted them and stuff. And I was hauled off campus by security, And I tried everything to get my job back. I said, hey, look at my worth. Look at all the stuff I've done. And I told you I have a little bit of communication problems, but I said, I've been able to fix everything on campus and save you millions of dollars. And they got rid of me. Now, I had been contacted by District 81 prior to this. I could have gone back to District 81, and I told them no. Even though it was union and was paying double what I was making at WSU, I said, I only got a few more years to work, and I'm making a difference here. My talents are being used for good for the whole state, and I had to stay. And I talked to John, my good friend, and I talked to my supervisor, and I said, I'm not going to accept that District 81 job as long as you can promise me that these two supervisors that are trying to get rid of me won't be able to do that. And both John and my immediate supervisor, they both told me there's no way. You are too valuable. You are making us money and saving us so much money. There's nothing they could do or say to possibly get you out of here. But they were wrong. And this was 5 years ago, and I had COVID at the time, and I was so sick and couldn't defend myself very well. And the chancellor of the campus, he was a good guy, believed me and stuff, but he said, why don't you just go apply for another state job, and I'll make sure that you get a good recommendation. He just wanted to get rid of me. It was a big problem. And so that's what I did. I resigned, and supposedly I left on good terms. And the chancellor told me to put his name down as a reference. And I went and applied over the next year, I think. I applied for 5 different good state jobs, schools and hospitals and things, union plumber. And I was the first choice on all of them. And I told them what happened at WSU. And they said, well, we're not worried. We'll as long as nobody says we shouldn't hire you or something. And I put the chancellor's name down as my contact. And never heard back, and I'd questioned and they said, they couldn't officially say this, but when I went and talked to these people that were all plumbers and knew me, They said, you were our first choice. We would have hired you. But WSU said not to hire you because you had attacked and assaulted two supervisors and you are a safety risk. So that hurt terribly. Oh, yeah. And so I couldn't do that. And I was sick, still sick with the COVID was out of my system, but I had what they call long COVID. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I was going to the doctor all the time, emergencies. I was so tired, and I'd try to work, and I would just sweat like mad, and I'd get dizzy, and I'd pass out, and I broke bones and ripped up my shoulder. I just couldn't work anymore. I couldn't drive, so I couldn't run a business. I couldn't do anything, and I was 62, so I took early Social Security, and I started applying for disability, and it took me almost 5 years. Well, I guess about 4 years of applying for disability and being denied to finally get disability. So that's where I'm at now. I'm on disability. I'm Social Security. I did finally try to sue WSU, and that was like 3 years ago. I got a lawyer to try to just recoup the money that it cost me, and they kept pushing the trial back. And so today, November 1st, is the first day of depositions for people at WSU to go to court with them, have a trial on January 1st, this coming up in 2 months. And hopefully I will be successful in proving that I was a good guy and I was smart and I fixed their problems. And hopefully they'll reimburse me all the money it lost. So that's where I'm at now. I'll pick this up again sometime. Thanks for listening.